So this video is on how to mix electronic instruments with orchestral instruments. And this is something I'm relatively new to, so I'm definitely not a master at this, but I wanted to kind of share some of the things I've figured out and what my process is and what I do to make this work. This right here is a project I did for a company down in Florida doing like walkthrough videos of real estate. And they wanted sort of an electronic kind of sound, but also this kind of classy orchestral sound. So I was mixing together those two sounds. So some of the tricks I was using, one of the easiest ones and the thing that I would recommend doing to get started is just throwing pads in to your music, because that adds a really cool layer to what you're doing, and it's super easy. I mean, you can just hold down whatever chord you're using at the moment, and it blends well, generally speaking, with your instruments. It's also nice to have those pads in there because they create a having that electric sound mixed with the acoustic sound kind of tricks the listener into thinking that the acoustic sounds they're hearing, even though they're electric VSTs, are actually real, and all the electric sounds they're hearing are like coming from that pad or something. But if you listen right here, I have a pad going right here. And it's kind of cool, because I don't know if you can hear it on whatever speaker you're listening to this on, but it sort of pans right and left with this cool mod wheel sort of stuff. And I have it actually sort of doubling these strings right here. It's not playing everything the strings are playing, because the strings have these huge chords, but it has enough to add like an extra texture to the overall sound. So that's a really easy way to go ahead and get started with mixing electronic and orchestral type sounds. I also use this mixture of electronic instruments to kind of bridge between sections of music that I'm writing. I like write one part of my music and then I write the next part. That's just kind of how I go about writing stuff. But right here I have this. This is just like arpeggiating these chords. But what I do is I have it sort of doubled in with these strings right here. So I let these strings slowly fade in with automation, right? And then here's this next section right here. So now this one kind of, the synth sort of falls out of the foreground and like the strings take precedence. So what I'm doing there is, let me open this up. Okay, come on. So if you look right here, let me see, back it up a little bit. So I did some automation so that the mod wheel slowly starts building up right here. You can see that. And it's building up to this point so that it's getting louder, and then it kind of falls into this mellow sound, and that allows the strings to kind of come out over top of that. And it really does a good job of transitioning between these two sections of the piece. Here it is all together. Hear it slowly creeping in. So that's a great way to use electronic instruments, just because you have all those cool things you can do with automation. And when you have it sort of doubling in with something else, it does a good job of just creating interesting sounds and moving your music along a little bit quicker. Also, just with automation and such, just do as much as you can when you're working with electronic instruments. It makes them, there's so much more you can do with them other than just play chords. It's like with orchestral VSTs, for example, they're pretty limiting in like what they're able to do in some cases, not in all cases. But there's so much fine tuning you can do with electric instruments, and it makes your music sound way, way more interesting. The last thing is also a pretty simple thing, is having a mixture of like sort of hip hop, lo-fi kind of beats in the background. And again, this isn't something I'm amazing at, but this is like the next section of the piece. So I just have this beat going in the background. It's nothing special, but having that in there goes a long way when you're trying to mix these two instruments and styles and such. I actually, right here, this is a acoustic drum set mixed with like an electric one. I think it kind of gives it a better texture, a little bit more of a full sound, but you can hear how it all mixes together here. So those are some of my quick tips on mixing electronic instruments with orchestral instruments. Just doubling things in, putting in pads, all kinds of stuff like that. Just those little things can make a big difference. So trying to implement some of this stuff in, don't be afraid of doing something weird that doesn't sound quite right. It's just listen to some electric music. Listen to EDM music. There's lots of great production value that goes into EDM music. If it's not something, if you work mostly with orchestral VSTs, like I personally do, but just listening to some of the tricks and things they do, it's really cool what you're able to put together and create. And mixing those orchestral instruments with these electronic instruments opens up like a whole new world of sounds. So just start experimenting with stuff. You'll kind of come up with your own style. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just listen to some stuff, kind of try to figure out some ideas that you can kind of take and then recreate and go for it. So if you have any questions, let me know down below. I'd be happy to help you any way I can. Also, if you do more electronic music or something and you have some tips from me, I'm definitely still learning all this stuff myself.